Hebrew Bible. The Hebrew Bible or Tanakh, Hebrew Tanakh, pronounced ta๊nax or ta๊nax, is the canonical collection of Hebrew scriptures, including the Torah, the Nevi'im, and the Ketuvim. These texts are almost exclusively in Biblical Hebrew, with a few passages in Biblical Aramaic in the books of Daniel and Ezra, the verse Jeremiah 10, Micah 10, 11, and some single words. The authoritative form of the Hebrew Bible for Rabbinic Judaism is the Masoretic Text 7th to 10th century CE, which consists of 24 books divided into pasukim verses. The contents of the Hebrew Bible are similar to those of the Protestant Christian Old Testament, in which the material is divided into 39 books and arranged in a different order. Catholic Bibles, Eastern/Greek Orthodox Bibles, and Ethiopian Orthodox Bibles contain additional materials derived from the Septuagint texts translated into Koine Greek and other sources. In addition to the Masoretic text, modern scholars seeking to understand the history of the Hebrew Bible use a range of sources. These include the Septuagint, the Syriac language Peshitta translation, the Samaritan Pentateuch, the Dead Sea Scrolls collection, and quotations from rabbinic manuscripts. These sources may be older than the Masoretic text in some cases and often differ from it. These differences have given rise to the theory that yet another text, an urtext of the Hebrew Bible, once existed and is the source of the versions extant today. However, such an urtext has never been found, and which of the three commonly known versions, Septuagint, Masoretic Text, Samaritan Pentateuch, is closest to the urtext is debated. The name Tanakh. Tanakh is an acronym made from the first Hebrew letter of each of the Masoretic text's three traditional divisions: Torah, literally instruction or law; Nevi'im, prophets; and Ketuvim, writings, hence ta๊naḥ. The three-part division reflected in the acronym Tanakh is well attested in the rabbinic literature. During that period, however, Tanakh was not used. Instead, the proper title was Mikra or Mikra, imqr, meaning reading, or that which is read because the biblical texts were read publicly. The acronym Tanakh is first recorded in the medieval era. Mikra continues to be used in Hebrew to this day, alongside Tanakh, to refer to the Hebrew scriptures. In modern spoken Hebrew, they are interchangeable. The term Hebrew Bible. Many biblical studies scholars advocate use of the term Hebrew Bible or Hebrew Scriptures as a substitute for less neutral terms with Jewish or Christian connotations, e.g. Tanakh or Old Testament. The Society of Biblical Literature's Handbook of Style, which is the standard for major academic journals like the Harvard Theological Review and conservative Protestant journals like the Bibliotheca Sacra and the Westminster Theological Journal, suggests that authors be aware of the connotations of alternative expressions such as Hebrew Bible and Old Testament without prescribing the use. Alistair McGrath points out that while the term emphasizes that it is largely written in Hebrew and is sacred to the Hebrew people, it fails to do justice to the way in which Christianity sees an essential continuity between the Old and New Testaments, arguing that there is no generally accepted alternative to the traditional term Old Testament. However, he accepts modern Christian formulations of this tension include supersessionism, covenant theology, New Covenant theology, dispensationalism, and dual covenant theology. All of these formulations, except some forms of dual covenant theology, are objectionable to mainstream Judaism and to many Jewish scholars and writers, for whom there is one eternal covenant between God and the Israelites, and who therefore reject the term Old Testament as a form of antinomianism. Christian usage of the Old Testament does not refer to a universally agreed upon set of books, but rather varies depending on denomination. Lutheranism and Protestant denominations that follow the Westminster Confession of Faith accept the entire Jewish canon as the Old Testament without additions, although in translation they sometimes give preference to the Septuagint LXX rather than the Masoretic text. For example, see Isaiah 7:14. Hebrew refers to the original language of the books, but it may also be taken as referring to the Jews of the Second Temple era and their descendants who preserved the transmission of the Masoretic Text up to the present day. The Hebrew Bible includes small portions in Aramaic, mostly in the books of Daniel and Ezra, written and printed in Aramaic square script, which was adopted as the Hebrew alphabet. Development and codification. There is no scholarly consensus as to when the Hebrew Bible canon was fixed. Some scholars argue that it was fixed by the Hasmonean dynasty, while others argue it was not fixed until the 2nd century CE or even later. According to Louis Ginzberg's Legends of the Jews, the 24-book canon of the Hebrew Bible was fixed by Ezra and the scribes in the Second Temple period. According to the Talmud, much of the Tanakh was compiled by the men of the Great Assembly Anshe Knesset HaGedolah, a task completed in 450 BCE, and it has remained unchanged ever since. The 24-book canon is mentioned in the Midrash Koheleth 12:12. Whoever brings together in his house more than 24 books brings confusion. Language and pronunciation. The original writing system of the Hebrew text was an abjad, consonants written with some applied vowel letters matters lectiones. During the early Middle Ages, scholars known as the Masoretes created a single formalized system of vocalization. This was chiefly done by Aaron ben Moses ben Asher in the Tiberias school, based on the oral tradition for reading the Tanakh, hence the name Tiberian vocalization. It also included some innovations of Ben Naphtali. Despite the comparatively late process of codification, some traditional sources, and some Orthodox Jews hold the pronunciation and cantillation to derive from the revelation at Sinai, since it is impossible to read the original text without pronunciations and cantillation pauses. The combination of a text impure mikra, pronunciation niquid, and cantillation timim tamim enable the reader to understand both the simple meaning and the nuances in sentence flow of the text. Number of different words used. The number of distinct words in the Hebrew Bible is 8,679, of which 1,480 are hapex legona, 112 words or expressions that occur only once. The number of distinct Semitic roots, on which many of these biblical words are based, is roughly 2,112. Books of the Tanakh. The Tanakh consists of 24 books, counting as one book each 1 Samuel and 2 Samuel, 1 Kings and 2 Kings, 1 Chronicles and 2 Chronicles, and Ezra Nehemiah. The 12 minor prophets tri-shr are also counted as a single book. In Hebrew, the books are often referred to by their prominent first words. Torah. The Torah Tivora, literally teaching, also known as the Pentateuch, or as the 5 books of Moses. Printed versions rather than scrolls of the Torah are often called chamisha, chumshe Torah khmish khvmshai tvrh, 5/5 sections of the Torah, and informally a chumash. Biat resit biat rishiat, literally in the beginning Genesis. Eset mat sh at maft, literally the names of Exodus. Vayikra vayik et ra, literally, and he called Leviticus. Viet midbar biet minet bar, literally in the desert of Numbers. Diet varim diet barium, literally things or words Deuteronomy. Nevi'im. Nevi'im enet biim, prophets is the second main division of the Tanakh between the Torah and Ketuvim. This division includes the books which cover the time from the entrance of the Israelites into the land of Israel until the Babylonian captivity of Judah, the period of prophecy. Their distribution is not chronological, but substantive. The former prophets in Biam are Vinim Nevi'im Rishonim, Y at Hasua, Y at Voshua Joshua, Softim Shop at Tiem Judges, S at Mul Sh at MVL Samuel, M at Lakim M at Lakim Kings, the latter prophets in Biam Khr Vinim Nevi'im Aharonim, Y at Seahu, Y at Shah at Yavaseye, Yavaseye, Yerm at Yahu, Yer at M, at Yav Jeremiah, 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 at Yav Jeremiah, 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 Jeremiah. Y at Heskel, Y at Kez at Kel Ezekiel, the 12 minor prophets, Tri Shr, Tre Asar, the 12, which are considered one book. Hosea H. Vosha Hosea, Hosea, Yal Evol Joel, Amos and Boz Amos, Obadiah Obad at Yah Obadiah, Yonah Avana Jonah, Mika Mika, Nahum Nahum, Habakkuk Habakkuk, Esephani Ts at Pan, at Josephaniah, Haggai, See it Carrier, See it Car, at Yazechariah, Malachi Mal at Eki Malachi, Ketuvim, K at Tvbium. Writings consists of 11 books. Poetic books. In Masoretic manuscripts and some printed editions, Psalms, Proverbs, and Job are presented in a special 2-column form emphasizing the parallel stitches in the verses, which are a function of their poetry. Collectively, these 3 books are known as Sifrei Emet, an acronym of the titles in Hebrew, Iv, Emshlai Th Lanil Zemet Mt, which is also the Hebrew for truth. These 3 books are also the only ones in Tanakh with a special system of cantillation notes that are designed to emphasize parallel stitches within verses. However, the beginning and end of the book of Job are in the normal prose system. T at Hilium Psalms, Misli Mis at Lay Book of Proverbs, Iyab Evav Book of Job, 5 scrolls. The 5 relatively short books of the Song of Songs, the Book of Ruth, the Book of Lamentations, Ecclesiastes, and the Book of Esther are collectively known as the Hamish Megalot 5 Megalot. These are the latest books collected and designated as authoritative in the Jewish canon, with the latest parts having dates ranging into the 2nd century BCE. These scrolls are traditionally read over the course of the year in many Jewish communities. These books are read aloud in the synagogue on particular occasions, the occasion listed below in parenthesis. Sir Has-Sirim Shehashiriam Song of Songs, also known as Song of Solomon on Passover. Rut Arvit Book of Ruth on Shavuot, Eka Book of Lamentations on Tisha B'Av, Kohelet Ecclesiastes on Sukkot, Esther Es at Tur Book of Esther on Purim. Other books. Besides the 3 poetic books and the 5 scrolls, the remaining books in Ketuvim are Daniel, Ezra, Nehemiah, and Chronicles. Although there is no formal grouping for these books in the Jewish tradition, they nevertheless share a number of distinguishing characteristics. Their narratives all openly describe relatively late events, i.e., the Babylonian captivity and the subsequent restoration of Zion. The Talmudic tradition ascribes late authorship to all of them. 2 of them, Daniel and Ezra, are the only books in Tanakh with significant portions in Aramaic. Daniel, Book of Daniel. Ezra, Ra, Book of Ezra, and Book of Nehemiah. Diver Yamim Dib at Re Hamium, Books of Chronicles. Book order. The Jewish textual tradition never finalized the order of the books in Ketuvim. The Babylonian Talmud Bava Batra 14:15 gives their order as Ruth, Psalms, Job, Proverbs, Ecclesiastes, Song of Songs, Lamentations, Daniel, Scroll of Esther, Ezra, Chronicles. In Tiberian Masoretic codices, including the Aleppo Codex and the Leningrad Codex, and often in Old Spanish manuscripts as well, the order is Chronicles, Psalms, Job, Proverbs, Ruth, Song of Songs, Ecclesiastes, Lamentations, Esther, Daniel, Ezra. Nach, also anglicized Nach, refers to the Nevi'im and Ketuvim portions of Tanakh. Nach is often referred to as its own subject, separate from Torah. It is a major subject in the curriculum of Orthodox high schools for girls and in the seminaries which they subsequently attend, and is often taught by different teachers than those who teach Chumash. The curriculum of Orthodox high schools for boys includes only some portions of Nach, such as the Book of Joshua, the Book of Judges, and the five Megillot. Translations. The Holy Scriptures according to the Masoretic Text, a new translation with the aid of previous versions, and with the constant consultation of Jewish authorities, was published in 1917 by the Jewish Publication Society. It was replaced by their Tanakh in 1985. Tanakh, Jewish Publication Society, 1985, ISBN 0-8276-252-9. Tanakh, the Stone Edition, Hebrew with English translation, Masoretic Publications, 1996, ISBN 0-89906-269-5, named after benefactor Irving I. Stone. Tanakh Ram, an ongoing translation to modern Hebrew, 2010 by Avraham, Avia Ariam Publishing House Limited and Miskal Limited. The Living Torah and the Living Natch, a 1981 translation of the Torah by Rabbi Aryeh Kaplan, and a subsequent posthumous translation of the Nevi'im and Ketuvim following the model of the first volume. Jewish commentaries. The major commentary used for the Chumash is the Rashi commentary. The Rashi commentary and Metziudot commentary are the major commentaries for the Netch. There are two major approaches to the study of and commentary on the Tanakh. In the Jewish community, the classical approach is a religious study of the Bible, where it is assumed that the Bible is divinely inspired. Another approach is to study the Bible as a human creation. In this approach, biblical studies can be considered as a subfield of religious studies. The latter practice, when applied to the Torah, is considered heresy by the Orthodox Jewish community. As such, much modern-day Bible commentary written by non-Orthodox authors is considered forbidden by rabbis teaching in Orthodox yeshivas. Some classical rabbinic commentators, such as Abraham ibn Ezra, Gersonides, and Maimonides, used many elements of contemporary biblical criticism, including their knowledge of history, science, and philology. Their use of historical and scientific analysis of the Bible was considered acceptable by historic Judaism due to the author's faith commitment to the idea that God revealed the Torah to Moses on Mount Sinai. The modern Orthodox Jewish community allows for a wider array of biblical criticism to be used for biblical books outside of the Torah, and a few Orthodox commentaries now incorporate many of the techniques previously found in the academic world, e.g. the Dat Mikra series. Non-Orthodox Jews, including those affiliated with conservative Judaism and Reform Judaism, accept both traditional and secular approaches to Bible studies. Jewish commentaries on the Bible discusses Jewish Tanakh commentaries from the Targums to classical rabbinic literature, the Midrash literature, the classical medieval commentators, and modern-day commentaries.